Snow Shieldspire. The dust motes danced in the single shaft of light piercing the observatory's dome. I, Snow Veil, though most called me Shieldspire, traced the constellations on the ancient star chart. Not for divination, not anymore. Just habit. 20 years I'd spent here, charting anomalies, dismissing whispers of true sight. My role as an abjurer demanded logic, barriers against chaos, not chasing phantom prophesies. The village of Oakhaven slumbered below, believing its safety rested in my wards. A comfortable lie, perhaps, but one I maintained with precise calculations and unwavering skepticism. This was my ordinary, a quiet life of measured defenses against the predictable storms of the world. The messenger arrived with the scent of wood smoke and fear clinging to his cloak. Old man Tiber, babbling about a shadow blooming in the whisperwood, a darkness that ate the stars. I dismissed it, naturally. Tiber had always been prone to exaggeration. But then came the reports, livestock vanishing, travelers lost, an unnatural stillness settling over the forest. And then, the nightmares began. Not mine, but those of the villagers' vivid, shared dreams of a formless dread. The whispers weren't just stories anymore, they were contagion. The call of adventure came not as a trumpet blast, but as a creeping unease that threatened to unravel the very fabric of Oakhaven's peace. I argued with the village council for hours. A localized phenomenon, I insisted, likely bandits, or a rogue magical creature. Easily contained. Sending a detachment of guards would be sufficient. But they spoke of the dreams, of the growing fear, of the ancient texts mentioning a nullity, a being born of forgotten prophecies, a devourer of realities. They wanted me to investigate the source, to confront the darkness. The thought chilled me. I'd built my life around preventing confrontation, around erecting barriers. To step into that darkness, it felt like admitting the possibility of things beyond my control. I refused. My wards would hold, I said. They had to. Old Alara, the village herbalist, found me in the observatory, surrounded by my charts and calculations. She didn't argue, didn't plead. She simply placed a small, intricately carved box on the table. Your grandmother's, she said, her voice raspy with age. Inside lay a set of obsidian focusing stones, cool to the touch, and a worn leather-bound journal. She was an abjurer, too, Alara continued. But she understood that barriers alone aren't enough. Sometimes, you must meet the darkness to understand it. The journal detailed my grandmother's research into post-truth prophesied visions that manifested not as predictions, but as self-fulfilling anxieties. Alara's wisdom, and the weight of my family's legacy, prepared me for the inevitable. The whisperwood swallowed the sunlight whole. I stepped across the boundary of my wards, a strange sensation, not fear, but a hollow emptiness settling in my chest. It felt like walking into a forgotten memory. The air grew thick with a silence that pressed against my ears. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, only the rhythmic thud of my own heartbeat. I was leaving behind the known, the predictable, and stepping into a realm where the rules were fluid. The crossing wasn't a dramatic act of courage, but a quiet acceptance of the unraveling. The forest tested me at every turn. Illusions flickered at the edge of my vision, whispers attempted to sow doubt, and shadowy figures darted between the trees. I encountered a young woodcutter, Elias, haunted by visions of his family consumed by darkness, a staunch ally, though terrified. I also met Kalen, a scholar obsessed with finding the source of the nullity, his mind fractured by the weight of forbidden knowledge, a dangerous acquaintance, driven by a desperate need for control. The nullity's influence wasn't just a threat, it was a corrosive force, twisting intentions and eroding sanity. We reached the heart of the whisperwood, a clearing dominated by a petrified tree, its branches reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers. At its base, A swirling vortex of shadows pulsed with an unnatural energy. This was the inmost cave, the source of the nightmares, the locus of the nullity's power. Kalen, driven mad by his research, attempted to harness the vortex, believing he could control it. Elias and I struggled to restrain him, but the vortex's pull was immense, threatening to consume us all. It wasn't a physical barrier that stood between me and my goal, but a terrifying descent into chaos. Kalen succeeded in touching the vortex, and the resulting surge of energy nearly destroyed us. The nullity manifested as a shapeless dread, feeding on our fears and anxieties. It wasn't a battle of spells and defenses, but a struggle against our own inner demons. I realized the nullity wasn't a being from another reality, it was a reflection of our collective anxieties, amplified by the post-truth prophecies. To defeat it, I couldn't simply erect a barrier, I had to confront the source of the fear itself. I used my grandmother's focusing stones to channel the villagers' collective hope, transforming their anxieties into a shield of resilience. The nullity recoiled, its form fracturing as the collective hope of Oakhaven surged through the clearing. As it dissipated, a single object materialized at the base of the petrified tree, a smooth, obsidian stone, pulsing with a faint, warm light. It wasn't a weapon, or a source of power, but a focus, a conduit for shared consciousness. The seizing of the sword wasn't about claiming dominance, but about understanding and accepting the interconnectedness of all things. Returning to Oakhaven wasn't a triumph, but a reckoning. The villagers were grateful for the nullity's defeat, but the experience had shaken them to their core. The shared nightmares had left an indelible mark, and the once comfortable lie of their security was shattered. Some embraced the newfound awareness, others retreated into denial. My victory had created a crisis of faith, forcing them to confront the fragility of their reality. The road back was paved with uncertainty and the weight of responsibility. A faction within the village, led by a former council member, blamed me for unleashing the nullity, claiming my research into post-truth prophecies had attracted the darkness. They demanded I relinquish the obsidian stone and reinstate the old ways of blind faith. The final test wasn't a magical duel, but a moral confrontation. I refused to surrender the stone, arguing that true security lay not in denial, but in facing our fears together. It was a moment of resurrection, forcing me to choose between preserving the status quo and embracing a future built on awareness and understanding. Years later, Oakhaven wasn't the same. The obsidian stone became a focal point for community gatherings, a place to share fears and anxieties openly. The village wasn't free from darkness, but they had learned to navigate it together, embracing the interconnectedness of their reality. I continued my research, not to predict the future, but to understand the forces that shape it. I had returned with the elixir, not a cure for all ills, but a new way of seeing the world, a testament to the power of awareness, and the enduring strength of a community bound by shared truth.